Well, hello everybody, and welcome to my little show here. This is Live from Billy's Place number 6, and I'm really happy that you're here. To all the new people, welcome. It's great to have you here, and to all the repeat customers, welcome back. I've got a great show lined up for tonight, and a lot of great songs, great stories. I've been excited about this show all week, and I've been rehearsing and researching and making sure I've got all my stories straight and in order, and even calling people to talk to them about their memories of these tours that I'm about to tell you about. And anyway, let's get started first by asking you if you would mind to hit that share button, and let's get this show out there to all your friends and neighbors, and love to have as many people watching this as possible. And also keep in mind, this show is free. It is free, my brothers and sisters. I want you to enjoy it. However, if you are so inclined, if you like what I've been doing, and if you'd like to see me do more of these segments of these anecdotal song shows, please feel free to hit that PayPal link or the Venmo link that's up at the top of your page, and send in whatever you like, how often that you like, and in whatever amount. As always, a portion of the proceeds goes to the Music Cares program, which helps musicians in times of need. And that is that, and we'd appreciate any help you can give. So, before I get started with my first song, I gotta tell you my joke du jour, and it goes like this. So, the guy's driving down the street with his pickup truck. In the back, he's got a bunch of penguins, full of penguins. Policeman pulls him over and says, what's up with the penguins? He says, well, they're my penguins, they're my pets. He says, you can't have all these penguins as pets. I want you to take them right to the zoo. So the guy says, okay. Well, the next day he's driving down the street, same guy, but this time the penguins all have sunglasses on. The cop sees him, pulls him over, and says, I thought I told you to take these penguins to the zoo. He says, I did, and today I'm taking them to the beach. Yeah. Hello, my friends. It's good to see you again. I guess it's been a few years since I've been away, but I'm happy to say I'm doing okay myself. I can dig what's happening, and every day there is something new at hand. Good things are coming my way. So tell me how you've been. There's so much you gotta tell me. Let's talk about them good old days when we'd laugh and say, hey, hey, man, you're okay. Let's take it nice and easy now. It's a brand new year. Lots of things are happening. Hey, hey. Good things are coming my way. Tell me how you been. There's so much you gotta tell me. Let's talk about them good old days when we'd laugh and say, hey, hey, ain't life okay? Let's take it nice and easy now. Let's get on back to that groove. Stick around for a couple of days, 'cause hey, good things are coming my way. Good things are coming my way. All right. I hope the Who doesn't mind that I borrowed that ending from them. They'll never know. Anyway, that was good. Things are coming my way, and I like to think that way every day, and I hope they're coming your way too. Good things. All good things. Anyway, may I say that, boy, I've been touring for a long time. Dino, Desi, and I started touring with the Beach Boys in 1965. You know how many years ago that was? Oh my gosh. And the guys, they loved us. They took us to Bakersfield, Fresno, and Hawaii. That's after we opened for them at the Hollywood Bowl. And, oh man, it was a blast. Those are the days when we used to run to the limos after the show. You know, the guys were still wearing striped shirts, white pants, and, you know, Dino, Desi, and I mean, we were loving it, the whole milieu of, well, it was like Beatlemania, you know, and we wanted a part of it, and boy, did we ever get it. And, you know, that translated over to the Beach Boy world, too. So, man, those were fun days. I mean, it's gone back quite a ways. Carl and Mike were roommates. I remember at the Hilton Hawaiian Village, they had a penthouse suite, and, you know, I had been palling around with Carl. You know, we both were the guitar players in the group. We both played 12-string Rickenbackers. So anyway, got to know the guys over the years. And anyway, Dino, Desi, and I had our own tours that we did. Gosh, we even went to Canada. We had our own plane. Yeah, it was just the three of us and our friend who was our roadie, or tech, Jay Judson was his name, and the pilot. And we toured Canada. I don't want to say the pilot was old, but his first name was Pontius. We were flying across the plains of Canada, and he says, I got some good news and I got some bad news. We said, well, what? What's the bad news? He says, we're lost. Great. What's the good news? We're 3 hours ahead of schedule. Anyway, I don't want to say that the plains of Canada were long and wide, but the guy actually let us take turns flying this DC-3. My hand to God. This red DC-3 that, you know, sat like this when it was on the ground. Then it went like this as it took off. Anyway, those were great times. And back in those days, we had a pretty, you know, short repertoire of songs that we did. This is one of them that I happen to like. I heard it on a Manfred Mann album, but I really liked it, and we recorded it too. This is one of the songs we did in our show. When she walks, she looks so fine, pretty flamingo, 'cause her hair grows like the sun, and her eyes can light the skies. When she walks, she moves so fine, pretty flamingo, crimson dress that clings so tight, she's out of reach and out of sight. When she walks by, she brightens up the neighborhood. Oh, every guy would make her his if he just could, if she just would. Some fine day I'll make her mine, pretty flamingo, and all the guys will envy me, 'cause paradise is where I'll be. Sha-la-la, la-la-la-la, pretty flamingo. Sha-la-la, la-la-la-la, pretty flamingo. Well, then we went on tour with Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs. Remember them? He dressed up, you know, like a pharaoh. On the tour, he had 3 background girl singers called the Shamettes. So it was Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs and the Shamettes, who were like the Shangri-Las. You remember them walking in the sand? But this is Sam's song. We used to listen to this every night that we were on tour with him. free. He was wild and wacky, but a great guy. Then we went on tour with Paul Revere and the Raiders. Now that was a blast. I mean, they're a little bit older than us, a little bit wilder than us, and much like the Beach Boys, they took us under their wing, and man, we had a great time with them. You know, they come out just in those incredible outfits, and they do steps, you know, and they were great. I mean, you remember, kicks just keep getting harder to find, and all those kicks ain't bringing you peace of mind. You better find out it's too late, well, before it's too late. And of course, hungry for them good time, baby, hungry through and through, hungry for that sweet life, baby, with a refined girl like you. You know, I think that's probably where Sir Anthony Hopkins got the idea for that Falavine with a fine Chianti scene move, but we'll never know. Anyway, I remember we went to, this is a Dick Clark tour with Paul Revere and the Raiders, which included Tommy Rowe, who was just a great guy. You remember Tommy? Sweet little Sheila, you know her if you see her. Blue eyes and a ponytail, cheeks are rosy, she looks a little nosy, and that little girl is fine. Me and Sheila go for a ride, feel funny inside. Then little Sheila whispers in my ear, I love you, Sheila dear. Sheila said she loved me, she said she never leave me. True love will never die. We're so doggone happy just being around together. Man, that little girl is fine. Man, that little girl is fine. Yeah, they were great. Paul Revere and the Raiders and Tommy Rowe. I remember when we played Tampa, Florida. Dino, Desi, and I got the key to the city. And the next day, the parents of all of our teenage girl fans had the locks changed on the doors. Huh. Anyway, moving right along. So already, Dino, Desi, and I had some pretty good experience traveling, but boy, when I joined the Beach Boys, I really saw the world, you know, United States, Canada, Europe, Germany, England, you name it, all over the place. And come 1974-ish, the boys were playing kind of smaller venues. They'd reached sort of a turning point. Their career was, you know, in flux. And Dennis called Jim Guercio, who I had seen at the Martin's house, at Dino's house, actually. That was the very first time I saw him. I'd heard about him. He was working with Chad and Jeremy as their bass player, and I think he might have produced them, but he had also produced Blood, Sweat, and Tears, and he was producing CTA, which became Chicago, Transit Authority, which became Chicago. And Dennis asked Jim if he would help, you know, guide the Beach Boys. And so Jim was managing the Beach Boys, Three Dog Night, and Chicago at the same time, which were the three biggest groups in the country, if not the world. I mean, Jim really helped turn the Beach Boys' career around. He started playing bass on tour with us. He went over the set list with Mike and Carl, and they restructured it. The Beach Boys in the early 70s were doing like medleys and stuff of their hits, trying to include more obscure material. And Jim just wanted to go back to the hits, you know. Let's just do the hits. Let's not do medleys. And so, you know, he worked the set, and then the double album, you know, Endless Summer came out, and that went platinum. And so that was a big surprise for everybody. But what all this led to was someone had a great idea to team the Beach Boys in Chicago up. And my buddy Chip Racklin, who worked at ICM at the time, he repped the Beach Boys, and Danny Weiner, his counterpart, was repping Chicago, and they pitched the idea to everybody, and everybody liked the idea. It was, Chip said it was very organic the way it came about. It was very easy. It made sense. Everybody liked the idea. So that is what we did. They put together this incredible tour. I remember Dennis telling us about CTA. He had seen them at the Whiskey and was raving about them. And I remember being at UCLA Film School. I have a degree in motion pictures television from UCLA, class of '74 actually. And I remember sitting in the hall where we watched films, and before the class started, they were playing this music, and I had never heard it before. And one song after another, just one song better than the next, better. I said, who are these guys? They were incredible. Horns, a lot of horns, much like Blood, Sweat, and Tears, who I also like. But it was CTA. It was one of their early albums, maybe their very first album. But it was incredible. And so we were all, aware of Chicago. And then I remember that Carl went up to Caribou with Al and Dennis, and they worked on a Chicago song, Wishing You Were Here, which I'm going to get to a little bit later on. But that was sort of the first time that the two groups interacted, and what a beautiful song that was. Anyway, we went on tour, and it was incredible. I mean, Walter Perezader says at the time that Chicago was roaring. They were roaring. He said that's a Chicago city term, meaning they were really hot at the time. I mean, I got to tell you some of the places that we went, because the tour was absolutely a sellout. Once the word got out how great this pairing of the Beach Boys in Chicago was, they had to keep adding dates. I mean, I'm looking at the entire tour of '75 now. It started at Jefferson Stadium in Houston, then the Cotton Bowl in Dallas, Arrowhead Stadium, Kansas City, the Arena in St. Louis. Then the Beach Boys played Anaheim Stadium, which was, Beach Boy country. And then we went on to do Day on the Green for Bill Graham up in Oakland. And these shows were like so spectacular. I mean, they had this woman, I'll never forget, her name was Maho Penn. Why do I remember these things? And she was a tightrope walker. And because it was outdoor, they strung her wire, from the ground all the way up to, I don't know, whatever level bleacher it was. And she walked the tightrope. I mean, it was like a circus atmosphere. It was much more than just a concert. And the thing is, when we first started out, it was a Chicago tour. They were headlining it with the Beach Boys as co-headlining it. But I tell you, the Beach Boys came out really strong out of the box, and Chicago found out that we were a very tough act to follow. And they had to make a few little adjustments so that, it upped everybody's game, let's put it that way. And it made for a better show all around. And of course, the word got out that because whoever, and then it came to the point where we would alternate who opened. So in certain markets, Chicago would open, other markets, Beach Boys would open, but basically it was every other show. But I remember that Chicago would always get the lion's share of the profits. It was never a 50-50 split, as I recall. And Chicago, got a little bit more because they were on fire. They were roaring, as Walt said, Walt Perezader. So, and rightly so. But there was a lot of great camaraderie I noticed amongst Chicago as I watched them on stage. The horn players always were interacting and laughing and joking, and I mean, it didn't matter how many shows we did with them. They were always really, upbeat, and I really liked that. I really appreciated that about them. And I told Carl, I said, man, those guys really have great camaraderie, and they did. I got to tell you, when we got to Chicago, we played the stadium, which was a hockey stadium. So we had a couple of shows booked June 1st and 2nd, which went clean, meaning they sold out. So they added June 3rd. That went clean. They had to add June 4th. That went clean. June 5th. So there's 1 through 5. And then they added another show on the 7th. So, I mean, I spoke with Jim Garcia recently about all of this because it was fun reminiscing with him. He says, you know, we could have sold out that venue for a month, and I think we could have, because the response was so overwhelming and positive and good. And these are big crowds. I mean, that's a big hockey stadium. I think Jim said it was 18,000 seaters, so you get the idea. You do the numbers, you know. Oh, and then not to mention, we played Madison Square Garden on the June 12th. We'd had two shows, as I recall, 12th and 13th. Those sold out. They added 14th and 15th. We did 4 shows at Madison Square. Incredible. And then we went on to the Capitol Center in Maryland, where, sadly, Robert Lamb broke his leg shooting basketball. Prior to the show, you know, there's lots of downtime, and as a result, he had to go to the hospital. He had a cast on his leg up to here. In fact, one of my buddies on Facebook recalls how they had to use a forklift, literally, to get him on stage. And the thing is, his misfortune was my good fortune, because about 3/4 of the way through the show, he would get a little delirious, a little spaced out, because of his stamina was running thin, and he must have been on meds. But he couldn't stay for the remainder of the show, so he left, and I got to play this song and accompany Terry and Peter on this. I mean, what a thrill, sitting at Robert Lamb's piano. Hours and dreamless nights and far ways. Oh, wishing you were here. Heaven knows and Lord it shows when I'm away. Oh, wishing you were here. Just to be with you tonight, baby, if I could. But I got my job to do, and I do it well. So I guess that's how it is. And that ending, where it goes from a minor to a major, well, I learned at UCLA during a music class that that's called terce to Picardy, or a Picardy third. And I went into their dressing room one night and I said, God, I just love the way Wishing You Were Here ends in a terce to Picardy. And they looked at me like I was from another planet. They were like, what? And I thought that was so funny, because those guys were so well schooled. I mean, they were, you know, top of the heap musicians. I mean, but anyway, that's one for UCLA, I guess you could say. Anyway, what was great about this tour, amongst so many other things, I call it the greatest tour ever, the Beach Boys Chicago tour, 1975. In fact, may I stop here and say that I was looking at the Beach Boys itinerary one day with their logo, Beach Boys, and I also had the Chicago itinerary, Chicago with their logo, right? And I'm going, wow, I was really excited to have their itinerary, because I got to see how they wrote up a tour and how they moved and how, you know, their time schedule, this and that. I was just looking at the two names, and Beach Boys Chicago, and I just said, Beachago. You know, I melded the two together and came up with this name, Beachago. And you know, I even have this image of like the Beach Boys logo B, right? And then small E-A, and then the Chicago logo C, and then H-A-G-O, so Beachago. Anyway, it's interesting because I was researching, wishing you were here a little bit to remember the circumstance, and I went to Wiki, and they're using the word Beachago as in reference to this tour. I couldn't believe it. I told Robert Lamb, Robert, I made up a word. And he said, well, it's kind of a word. And he's right. Back then, he was Bobby Lamb. That's what he was known as, Bobby. But when he turned 40, it was like, call me Robert. And so we call him Robert now. Anyway, I loved watching Chicago from the wings on the nights that, well, it didn't matter whether we opened or they opened. They always used to play this song. Time goes on, I realize just what you mean to me. And now that you're here, promise your love that I've waited to share and dream of our moments together. Color my world with hope of loving you. That's a 10th, by the way, that last chord. Beautiful. Anyway, imagine being in a Beachago show. You've never seen this configuration before, two of the biggest groups in the world, and you hear the opening strains of unmistakable, right? What song this is, right? But instead of Robert singing, Carl sings it. Saturday in the park, I think it was the 4th of July. Saturday in the park, I think it was the 4th of July. People laughing, people dancing, a man selling ice cream and singing Italian songs. Hey, goodbye, he said, now, can you take it? Yes, I can. I've been waiting such a long time for Saturday. Slow motion riders fire the colors of the day. A bronze man still can tell stories his own way. Listen, children, all is not lost. All is not lost. Oh, oh, oh. Yeah. I mean, that got the crowd on its feet. Unbelievable. Can you imagine Carl singing that song? Incredible. And then, as if that weren't enough, they launch into this. This, by the way, is at the end of the show. One group has done their set, the other group has done their set, and at the end we all merge. And Al Jardine steps up to the mic and sings. As I was walking down the beach one day, crowd goes nuts. A man came up to me and asked me what end it now. They play the horn part from Got to Get You Into My Life at the end. I just saw them in Vegas. Anyway, incredible, right? Walter Perezader told me that they wanted to be the Beatles with horns. And I think they accomplished that. I have a funny story about that song. Robert Lamb has always been so generous with his time and his talent, and he's been a real great friend to me and others that are close to me. Carl Wilson for one, Jeff Foskett for another. I mean, Robert has been in these offshoot groups with us, that we've gone to England, we went to New Zealand with Andy Kim, and we played a number, down in Hokitika, which is, the end of the world. This is, next stop is Antarctica. I'm serious. You stand on the shores of the beach in Hokitika, and, Antarctica that away. But it was the day of the show. It was a wild foods festival. And when I say wild foods, I don't just mean like venison and, So I'm talking about grubs, big white grubs, and really odd, really wild food. So anyway, Robert and his wife Joy are walking back from a stroll on the beach, and Jeff Foskett and I are standing on the balcony of this, very simple motel. We're in Hokitika, there aren't any, Ritz-Carltons in Hokitika, trust me. And so Robert walks back, and it's show day, and Robert looks up to us and says, "Hey, what time is it?" And Jeff looks at his watch, and he says, whatever it was, 5 o'clock. And then he adds to Robert, "But does anybody really know what time it is?" And says, "How many times have you heard that one?" And Robert says, "Way too many." He goes in his room, slams the door. Jeff and I still laugh about that, as we are tonight. Everybody say hi to Jeff Foskett. He's watching the show. He's my technical advisor. So say hi to Jeff. He's doing great, by the way. He's in great shape for the shape he's in, as Bill Medley would say. Anyway, so we've got all these guys, switching, Carl's singing Saturday in the Park, Al's singing Does Anybody Really Know What Time It Is? And then we launch into Darlin', right? And who steps up to the mic to handle this? But Peter. Crowd goes berserk. Oh, if words could say, darling, I'll find a way to let you know what you meant to me. Guess it was meant to be. I hold you in my heart as life's most precious part. Oh, darling, I dream about you often, my pretty darling. I love the way you soften my life with your love, your precious love. Oh. When I was talking to Walter about all of this, he said that when Beach Boys Chicago got together to rehearse, they were all proud because Chicago had been doing Darlin' in their set in the clubs of Chicago when they were coming up, and that they had written, Jimmy Pankow had written out the horn parts perfecto, and so they had them down. That was like the one Beach Boys song that they really were confident about, and they were all, proud, when, it was time to do Darlin', and that was a funny story. I mean, true story. Anyway, Robert also remembers that amongst these, can you imagine all the hits? As Glenn Fry once said, as he was, he'd watched the Beach Boys show from the wings on a number of occasions. The Eagles opened for the Beach Boys on a number of occasions. He said, it was just boom, 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 hit after hit after hit. And similarly with Chicago. So you can imagine all this wealth of material. And then Robert reminded me that he accompanied the Beach Boys on Surf's Up. We slipped in a real deep cut. If Beach Boy fans are familiar with Surf's Up, you will know how special that is. And once again, Chip Racklin reminded me that the story of Dennis went to him and said, I want to do You Are So Beautiful at the end of the show. And Chip was like, I don't think so, man. You're going to, get creamed. That's not going to go down, man. And Dennis insisted on it. And so Robert interestingly enough, back Dennis on You Are So Beautiful. I used to do that. That was my job with the Beach Boys, to back Dennis up night after night after night, doing You Are So Beautiful. And Chip said he was waiting in the wings, waiting to sweep Dennis up, as he put it. But Dennis nailed it, and the crowd went wild. Dennis had a way of touching people, and that was one of his gifts, you know. So anyway, boy, you know, I'm running a little bit longer tonight, but what do I care? What do I got to go, right? I usually do 30 minutes, but I'm going to go a little bit longer tonight. So in summation, you know, greatest tour ever. The Beach Boys in Chicago went on to do other tours together in '89 and so forth, but it wasn't the same. Terry wasn't there, Dennis wasn't there. It just wasn't the same anymore. So that's why 1975 will always be the best. Well, some of you Beach Boy fans know Carl Wilson, well, was my brother-in-law, but we co-produced our friend Ricky Martin. We did an album with him called Beach. We recorded it in Santa Monica, the Beach Boys studio, Brother Records studio in Santa Monica, and we invited a wide variety of, you know, the best people. Van Dyke Parks, Jimmy McCulloch from Wings, Jerry Beckley from America, Dennis Wilson played on it, Ricky Fattar, Chili Charles, who was one of Van Dyke's guys from, I believe he was from TNT, Trinidad Tobago. And anyway, Ricky had some great songs on that album. I'm going to play just a little snippet. I made my mind up years ago. Later now I gotta go. All this confusion in the air, people speeding around everywhere. My mind is going around and around. Lord, won't you slow this whole world down? Stop, take a breath, and look around. But we had this song, he had this song, because he wrote the material, called Everybody Knows My Name. And we asked Jimmy Pankow if he would write a chart for it, because it was like tailor-made for a great horn chart. So I'll never forget, Jimmy's fee was $1,000 and a case of beer. Yeah, and, okay, no problem. And he wrote this great chart for this song. I encourage you to search out Beached, Ricky Martin, R-I-C-C-I, like Ricci, the Italian pronunciation. And this is called Everybody Knows My Name. It goes like this. I rode around the block today. I brought me a brand new car. Now ain't it smart? People were looking just to see who was there, but the one-way glass wasn't there. Then vocals, Peter. I rode around the world today. Everybody knows my name. It's still the same. When will you marry me? My folks would say. I don't know, hey, hey, I don't know. I don't know, hey, hey, horns. Magic in the air, I feel. Peter and me and Carl shoot about. Feeling of joy was real. Bop, bop, shoot about. Loving the things I do. Everybody wants to love, yes they do. Everybody loves love, yes they do. Here come the mighty Chicago horns. Check out that album. It's really special. You will love it. Well, I had the very, very good fortune of Robert asking me last year if I'd like to work on a Christmas song with him, which, long story short, I did. And it was on this last Chicago Christmas CD called Well, Chicago. Chicago Christmas. And boy, oh boy, talk about, I don't know what to say, how grateful, fortunate I am. I mean, not only is Robert a great friend and has been for, since 75, 74 when I met him. It's a long time. But he's a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee. He's a Songwriter Hall of Fame inductee. And we came up with this a little bit. I hear sleigh bells ringing and the children singing. Winter stars are shining bright for everyone. It's Christmas time. Holiday faces glowing, sentimental feelings showing. I reach out my hand to friends I won't forget, because it's Christmas time. As I walk along the avenue, there's a brass quartet performing through the night. Throw a handful in the hat, that's what we always do. The spirit of the season reminds us of the reason. And it goes on to play a lot of really difficult Robert Lamb chords, which I am not prepared to do tonight for you. But that was fun to play that little bit for you. Anyway, I'm going to bring this show to a conclusion. This has been a great show for me. A lot of great memories. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sticking with me for the show. And if you like what you see, and if you like more, because I want to do more, do send in what you can via PayPal or Venmo. And a portion of the proceeds will benefit the Recording Academy's Music Cares, that benefits musicians all over the world. So I will conclude with a big thank you and a little song I like to close my shows with every time. Positivity every day. Positivity in every way. Positivity is what I need. Positivity, yes indeed. Positivity throughout the day. Positivity, that's what I say. Positivity is my friend. Positivity through thick and thin. Here we go. Positivity for everyone. Positivity, we've just begun. Oh yeah. Positivity for everyone. Positivity, we've just begun. Here we go. Oh yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. I wish you only the greatest things that life can bring. Bye for now.